Welcome to another episode of Unsavory Fellow. I'm Nick James. I'm super stoked to have my good buddy Robert Rusler, actor, writer, director. You even have an acting school.
Absolutely.
God, man, this is so fun.
Sexual deviant.
Sexual deviant. Totally. Dude, this is so good to have you here.
Aloha.
Aloha, my brother.
This is a nice setup you got here.
This is pretty good, right?
Yeah, not too shabby.
We tried it before. We had Robert on. I was renting a space. We had you in. It was a nice space, but the audio got all fucked up, and
this is a much nicer space, by the way.
Do you know how this space came about?
Tell me.
So we were renting that other space. It wasn't working out so good, and Jim says we could do this, and so we started building the space out. And I was down in Palm Springs with April, my wife, and I go, "Fuck, who am I gonna get? Who am I gonna get to get? You know." Well, no, I hadn't built it yet. I had the idea of building this.
Right, like Kevin Costner.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so funny you said that. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, who am I going to get? And I fucking go, what about Josh Brolin? That's fucking reaching high, right? My wife goes, just ask him.
He loves you.
I know, but I mean to ask somebody something, I go, I can't ask him.
Yeah. And
I'm sitting there at the pool in Palm Springs. I go, fuck it. You know what? Fucking so what? If people ask me construction, painting questions.
Yeah.
Why can't I ask about?
The worst that could happen is he could resent you.
Exactly.
Say no.
Right. We know about that.
And then make a voodoo doll out of you.
Right. So I text him. He goes, dude, I'd love to do it. And I go, fuck it. And I tell these guys, I go, we're on. We're building it now.
Yeah. That's Josh.
Yeah, but he still hasn't gotten here yet. He'll get here. I got you here.
That's right.
I got you.
Wait a minute. He said yes, and he still hasn't been here?
He'll come.
He's a real cocksucker.
I know.
Talented, but a cocksucker.
Yeah. But I got you.
Yeah. He'll come.
What are you doing now?
Well, I'm a little obsessed with Josh Brolin, to be honest with you. I write him letters, and I sit in my car outside of his house trying to get a peek. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just loving life, brother. I love Josh. He'll be on. He's going to be great. Yeah. And you know, I got a great woman in my life, and my kids are thriving. You know, I got 4 kids and 2 stepkids.
Oh, that's
so I'm broke, but I'm happy.
Right.
Yeah.
But you guys have a restaurant.
We have a restaurant. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We got a bookstore and
wait a minute, a bookstore. I didn't know about that.
We got a bookstore, Sunset
Really?
Park Provisions on Ocean Park, right
Really?
on 17th. Yeah, it's amazing. Spiritual bookstore, holistic.
Is that all it is, or is there other books?
There's a lot. There's crystals.
Can you
and
get
sound
novels
baths.
or no? Not
Pardon?
that kind of store. Not that kind. Not novels. It's all spiritual self-help stuff.
There's there's pretty a vast array of books to choose from.
Like, I guess what I'm wondering is like, do you have like a book like this there?
No, we haven't. We haven't gotten the Holy Bible yet.
Right.
Have you read this?
Yeah.
It's excellent.
It is great.
Yeah.
Look at
Josh is
see my notes?
Maybe we should just make this show about Josh.
Fuck it.
But he's such a creative writer anyway, and you know, he's very expressive, poetic. He's kind of a Renaissance man, to be honest with you.
And I was surprised by that. Because
he comes off like a simple cowboy.
Totally.
But he's much more.
And you've known him forever because you starred with him in Thrashing.
Yes.
And is that the first time you met him?
No, I had met him previous on some auditions, and we had that kind of "What's up, bro? Hey, bro. Hey, bro." You know.
Would you be going out for the same parts?
Going out for some of the same parts. He's a little younger than me, but we did have some of this same parts we were going up for, and sometimes they were different parts for the same movie. But I really liked him right away. I liked him when I saw him in Goonies anyway.
Right.
He was, really great and funny, and I'm a fan of his dad.
Yes,
James
Brolin.
And I wound up doing a series with his dad called Angel Falls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I worked with Josh and Jim on a couple of separate projects, and we've just stayed close over the years, and he's got a terrific family, and You know, I love his father to death. He's
So
just such a great guy.
he knew. He already said it's James Brolin, but he called him Jim.
Well, that's what he likes to be called.
Right. Jim Brolin.
Yeah, but that's
No, I know.
When if you say hi James, he goes Jim,
Okay.
and I'm like,
That's how you know you know.
and I'm
him.
like, relax,
I wouldn't know that.
relax, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we go way back, and we did that movie Thrashing together.
Which was what year was that?
86. 86.
Have you seen that, Jim?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I gotta watch it.
I auditioned for the role, and after I read with an actor named Jimmy McNichol. Remember Jimmy?
I remember.
Jimmy
Yes,
McNichol?
of course.
And him and his sister had a
Yes.
variety show.
What was the show?
I don't remember the name of the show. Christy McNichol was his sister.
Christy McNichol.
She was a big
yeah.
star.
Yeah, she was a big star.
And,
Big TV star.
Big TV star. And they did a show. I thought it was called The McNichols or something, whatever. It was a good. I used to watch it as a kid. It was a good show.
Right.
And I read with him. And after the audition, the producer and director said, "Hey, come back in here. We want you to read for the other role." I had read for the role of Corey, and Jimmy read for Hook. And they said, "Hey, let's turn it around, and we want you to read with another actor, and we want you to read Hook." And I said, "Okay."
How old were you at this time?
Oh, let's see, 21.
Young.
Yeah. So I read with another actor, and then after that, they sent that actor out, and they said, "Can you skate?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, show us." And they had a board in the room, and we went down the parking lot. And I pulled a couple tricks, and they were like, "Done.
Wow.
You're hired. Do you want to play Hook or Corey?"
Was this your first big role?
No, I had already done Weird Science, Nightmare on Elm Street
Oh, okay.
2.
Well, fuck.
I had already shot.
This is nothing then.
It was
you
my,
got all the
it was
confidence
like my
in the world.
fourth job.
Right?
I did a TV show in between and a Facts of Life, so fifth show.
Dude, so you have all the confidence in the world going into this, right?
Especially for this role, yeah. I had a lot of confidence because I grew up skateboarding my whole life.
Right. And you've done a bunch of big stuff.
And I was in class, and I was learning from Downey Jr., and, you know, I was in the pocket.
Yeah. How old were you when you started acting?
17. I went to acting class, and I was doing commercials, little modeling.
Where did you go?
I went to the Loft Studio in Hollywood.
Okay.
And I trained with Bill Traylor, Peggy Fury.
Peggy Fury,
Yeah,
yes.
fantastic coaches.
So you started at 17.
Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit.
That's okay.
Just from the thrashing.
Yeah.
So you start at 17, because I love the history of it all. You start at 17, you're in class with Peggy Fury, right? Who's in your class?
Wow, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, that's why I asked this
Jason
question.
Gedrick.
She was a huge
Sherilyn.
teacher back then.
Yeah, Sherilyn Fenn. Well, there were actually two classes, so Bill and Peggy would switch.
Right.
And so I mostly studied with Bill, but in Peggy's class, you know, there was Sean Penn and Nicolas Cage, and I mean all these fantastic actors. And that class actually in the beginning was a little scary because they were so, from my perspective, they were so advanced.
Yeah.
And I was new
They were already
starting out,
yeah.
and I was learning fundamentals, and they were already busting, you know, fantastic scenes from plays like Hatful of Rain, and you know,
Yeah.
I remember watching. I was peeking in Peggy's room in her class, and I was watching Sean Penn do a scene from Hatful of Rain with another actor, and I felt stifled, like I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, because he was brilliant
Yes.
already as a young, maybe an older teenager. He was probably right around 20, and I was like 18,
Yeah.
maybe 21, and you know,
Who, Penn?
it seemed daunting to be able to put up work like that.
It's a feeling of being defeated. It's like a defeated feeling.
Well, you know, like self-doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, is this attainable?
Right.
Can I do that? I mean, it was really fantastic. It was moving. That's why. It wasn't so much with a critical eye watching somebody act. It was watching somebody be and experience and just be so authentic and natural and effortless.
Yeah, which is funny because you didn't have the training yet. You just started.
Yeah, I just started.
Which is because I remember going into my first acting class. You know, I lived with all these fucking guys. I decided I want to be an actor, right? And I come back and everybody's shotgunning beers. Remember the, what was it called? The beer bong.
Beer bongs.
I get back to the apartment. I just take this acting class, my first class, and everyone's hammered drunk.
Where was your class? Who did you study with?
He just died. I knew you were going to ask
Was
me.
it Harry Master George?
No. Bruce Glover. Remember Bruce Glover?
No, but
Bruce Glover was always in all the drama log. He was in Crispin Glover's his son.
oh, okay.
So Bruce Glover was an old character actor. He was
Yeah,
in
yeah.
James Bond and,
Yeah.
you know. And I didn't fucking know. I went to my first class and he gave me a little scene to memorize, right? Just a paragraph of a scene, like a little monologue. And I get back and all my friends, you know, they're fucking wasted and they're beer bonging, throwing up. And I come in and everybody's like, how was the class? And somebody goes, what class? And they go, he went to acting class. And then everybody stands around and they go, let's see. And I go, let's see what? They go, act. And I go, act? They go, yeah, do it. And I had that thing and I was so stupid. I never had a class. And I tried to read what I knew off this monologue and everybody laughed. They go, you suck. You can't act. What a loser.
Yeah.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
But so when you're watching this, you're seeing these guys, right, that are already up here. Like you said, that feeling of how am I going to get there? So did you stick it out in that class?
Absolutely. Studied my ass off.
And how long did it take you, do you think, to get from where you started to get to that place where you felt confident like that?
Honestly, thinking back, it happened in one scene with a room with a view. I read the material, and Bill had put me with this actress named Nancy, and Nancy was sort of like the class pet, and she knew everything about thespianism and Bill and
Right.
this and that. And out of everybody to be put with a scene partner first, she intimidated me.
Yeah.
And I remember, we didn't get much rehearsal time. We got together a couple times, but there was a few times where she was kind of on me to come and rehearse for the scene for class. And I was afraid, so I was making excuses. I wasn't, like stifled with fear, but
Right.
I was apprehensive,
Yeah.
and also I was young, and I wasn't very accountable sometimes, and there was different reasons. But the bottom line is that we should have been rehearsing more.
Yeah.
And when Bill said, "Where are you at with the scene?" and she said, she kind of busted me and said, "Well, Robert hasn't really been available," and he said, "Well, you're putting it up now. You're on in 10 minutes."
Oh.
And, I was like, oh, shit,
Yeah.
So I immediately went and grabbed the material, and I was studying, and then she came over and we ran some lines, and then he called us up, and I didn't know what else to do, but just be me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
I got so
Which is hard to do.
I got so overwhelmed in the moment that I took a deep breath through my nose, and I just thought about how I grew up and what I wanted and what I was doing here. And when my mind tells me I can't, I always go to my center. So I went to my center and I just cleared myself out for a second, really. And he yells action, and I went in. I took off all my clothes except for my underwear. And because the scene was supposed to be the morning after we had sex for the first time.
Okay.
And the dialogue takes place.
That's a heavy beginning scene, dude.
It was a heavy beginning scene, and it's about a younger man and an older woman who are having a love affair. And so I stripped off all my clothes, and I brought in a box of cereal with a bowl and milk, and I made myself a bowl of cereal, and the whole class starts laughing. And I wasn't sure what they were laughing at, but I think looking back in retrospect, what was going on was that people were laughing because they were relating to the simplicity and the reality of the truth about getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
And thinking that you had just,
they're getting a little peek into your intimate life.
Swooned this girl.
Yeah.
And the confidence of making this bowl of cereal and starting to grub it and pretending I was watching cartoons or something, right?
It's like the simplest thing, right? It's just being.
Simplicity.
Yeah.
Simplicity and truth. And when she came in, she started doing the dialogue or whatever. She started the scene because she had the first line. And he immediately starts attacking her. Talk to him, like tell him. And I thought it was going to be the other way around. I thought, once the scene started that he was going to be sort of on me.
Right.
But he really got on her. And the more that sort of broke the ice, the scene started to really elevate. And she really came because she was talented.
Yeah.
I think she was just acting in the beginning.
Yeah.
And he didn't want her to act. He wanted her to be. And then it gave me my permission to just let go and focus on her and I's relationship, and everything else didn't matter. So I got into the pocket without really realizing that I was getting into the pocket.
Right.
What it's called in acting is riding a real wave. I was utilizing real emotions, and I was marrying my own personal experiences with the facts based of the character, right? I did it on accident because I was afraid and I didn't know what else to do. So I just was in it, and I gained so much confidence after that scene that I just knew that, simply put, that it was attainable, that I could do this.
Almost like right now, that's like when you did that, you almost gave yourself your own technique, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of a technique to just be calm and be in the moment.
Well, I realized the best ammunition for an actor is the truth. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a donut. You want a donut?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Coffee?
Appreciate it. I love some coffee. Thank you.
You want some cream? There's milk right there.
I appreciate it. You're an excellent host.
I poured coffee.
Oh, thank you.
So then, I want to jump ahead now. Wait, first let me ask you this question. Because then I want to get into the movies and shit. Because you've done so many fucking movies. Big iconic movies. Like, that seem to be coming back now. Because they're like, 80s. And 80s has become sort of popular again, right? But how was it and when was it that you go, fuck, I'm going to be an actor? When did you know? What was it that made you want to be an actor? When and what?
Well, I always wanted to have something to do with the movies. My dad was a Teamster at Universal Studios.
That's right.
And I used to go to work with him all the time and watch movies being made, and got to meet, iconic actors.
You were around
as a little boy,
Wow.
Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Robert Blake, Jack Lemmon. He took me to the set of Sugarland Express, which was directed by Steven Spielberg, and Goldie Hawn was the star of that movie. And so I was a little boy watching them film these kinds of movies.
So you got the bug watching.
Earthquake and Sense Around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was on set for that. So anyway, I thought initially that I was going to be maybe into the stunts, because he had a buddy who was in the Stuntmen's Association. And he said, you finish high school and you got a job, because all the crew guys really liked me. They'd get me in a headlock and Dutch rub me and give me shit, And I was a good kid. And I was physical. I was athletic. I was into martial arts and surfing and motocross, so I was able, and I thought, I could be a stuntman. And then his buddy Pete approached me, who was the head of special effects at Universal, and he showed me Bruce the Shark from Jaws before Jaws came out. And he took me, he said, "Hey, kid, you want to see something cool?" And I was like, "Sure, Pete." And he took me in this room and series of locks and doors, and there was this big...
That's kind of weird right now.
There was this big canvas, covering something I didn't know it was underneath, and he pulled the canvas, and it was the shark from Jaws. They had just wrapped
oh, wow.
filming.
So the shark.
The shark. Bruce the shark. They
Wow.
named him Bruce. And, as a kid, I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
cool, And he put some wires together and made the thing like move around. I was like, oh, this is great. And I said, you built this? And he said, yeah, me and the team built this. And this was the shark from the movie. It's coming out soon. And I was like, man, I want to be in special effects, right? He said the same thing. You finish school, you got a job here.
Yeah.
Just do well in school first. And once I was just about finished with high school, I met my manager, Dolores Robinson. And she asked me if I wanted to be an actor. I thought, well, I don't know. I never really thought about it. I don't know. I don't think I can do it, but I kind of know I can,
Yeah. You
And
thought you were right for it.
She liked that answer,
Right? Didn't you think so?
I just knew that it was exciting.
Yeah.
And I was a big movie buff anyway. I loved going to the movies with my dad and my grandpa, and we would go downtown on weekends and see a triple feature. I grew up loving the old stars.
But don't you think, like I was always saying, like I always thought, like I always say, I didn't know how to go about it. Like there's guys I grew up with, I went to high school with Chris Penn and Charlie Sheen and all those guys, right? Rob Lowe. And I always felt like they knew what to do. They knew how to get there, right?
Well, they had family in the business.
But there was something what I always felt like, which is total ego and being naive. I always thought like I should fucking be on TV. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I should be in the movies.
Yeah.
My arrogance.
I kind of had a different approach. Not that that's bad or wrong or, not the right approach, but I kind of said maybe I could be. Right. So there was a curiosity about it.
Yeah.
That's why when Dolores sort of navigated me through, because I didn't know how to do it either. Right? But she did. And she said, this is what you do. You study. You go to class and you learn the craft. And that's when she sent me to the loft studio, and that's when I was, a little bit wide-eyed. And
So what was the first thing you got then out of school? What was the first good role what was the first good role you got?
Weird Science.
Fuck, really?
Yeah. I had been.
Dude, that was
I was going to class.
Huge.
And I was auditioning, and, at the time I thought I was really kind of paying dues and struggling.
Right.
Because I had been going to auditions for like a year. And
Not getting anything.
sometimes I would just get the boot right away. Don't call us, we'll call you. Right. And then other times I would kind of get close, but I wouldn't land a job.
Yeah.
And I told my mom, because I was 18, I was living at home, and I got the script, Weird Science. And I told my mom, I read the script, first of all, and I thought it was hilarious. And I told my mom, if I don't get this job, I'm joining the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And she said, really? I go, yeah. She goes, why? I said, because this is me. I was that kind of bully. I wasn't a physical bully. I didn't like to bully people, but I did with comedy.
Right.
And then if you didn't like what I said, you got to catch me. That was the kind of guy I was in school,
Right.
Even if I could kick your ass, I would still run, like you got to catch me. Right. And I went in and I read with an actor named Craig Sheffer, who had already been working, was a great guy. I had met him. I think he was going to the loft studio as well. And on the spot, John Hughes hired us. He started laughing about halfway through the audition. And he said, you're hired. You're Max, you're Ian.
Like, and at that time, did you know who John Hughes was?
I knew who he was, yeah.
You had to know.
Yeah, because he had
So
already
this
come
had to
out
be a
with
big deal.
16 Candles, Breakfast Club.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
He was the director.
Absolutely.
The man then.
For teen movies, for sure.
Yeah, and so when you go in, you have to go. I would be like, how do you fucking not go in and get caught up in the nerves?
I'll tell
when
you
go
why.
fucking
Same
John
thing that
Hughes?
happened with class.
Okay.
Right before I went in with Craig, we started to audition outside, right? We were rehearsing.
Yeah.
And he said something to me that stuck with me.
Craig did?
Yeah. He said, bro, just be yourself. Let's go have fun.
Let's have fun.
And I went in there, and I had a good connection with him because he was a hilarious individual anyway. And we just were having fun.
Yeah.
And I just let everything else go and I did the same thing that I did in that class with Nancy, is I just resorted to making it an inside job.
See, and I think too what you said, which is interesting, which I always struggle with. I was always way out into the results. And if you're having fun right now, if you're going in to have fun, you can't be in the results.
Got to be in the execution.
Yeah. So and that was always, I think, what was hard was you'd go into an audition and you'd think you have to be somebody else. You know what I mean? Instead of like what he told you, be yourself and have fun. But that's not so easy to do.
And you know what is the best insurance for allowing that to happen is homework, right? So I studied and I did my homework.
Right.
And I knew who I was. I knew where I was. I knew, what I was doing there. Who was he to me? He was my best buddy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And who are they to me? A couple of nerds in school that we're fucking with. Right. Like, let's keep it simple. Yeah. Right? And again, we're not the kind of bullies that are actually going to hurt somebody or belittle them, but we're just going to, break balls.
Yeah, you're fucking around.
Fucking around with them. So we went in there and we were having a good time in the audition, and he starts laughing right halfway through, and he goes, stop. He goes, you're the guys. You're Max, you're Ian. I was like, what?
Wow.
He goes, yeah, you're hired. And the cast director goes, well, he's not in the union. He's not SAG. And he goes, Taft-Hartley him.
No.
And I go,
way.
What's Taft-Hartley? And she looks at me and she goes, it's a good thing. And I ran out. I didn't even say thank you or goodbye. I ran out.
Wow.
And I ran full speed down the middle of Universal Studios, which was my home away from home anyway.
Right.
And I picked up a payphone, called my mom. Mom! She goes, you got it.
Wow.
And I started crying. I go, I got it. And in those days, maybe still today, but in those days when you're a young guy at the studio and you're, whooping and hollering and crying at the same time, people realize you got a job.
Yeah.
So strangers were walking by going, congratulations.
Yeah.
And I was like, thanks, man. Thank you,
Dude, I invite.
Hold on, but this is the trip, because for people listening that they're like, Craig Sheffer. Well, about 2 weeks after I had gotten hired, I was surfing out at Toes Beach. Big old firing day, by the way.
Right.
And my brother whistled me in to the shore and said, hey, man, Universal Studios has been calling the house and they're looking for you and you got to go to the studio. And I was like, oh, shit, I got fired. Like, as soon as I got hired, I immediately go to negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I jam in this IROC Z28 that they had rented me to do the movie, right? I thought I was fucking Hooper, right? So I jam over to the studio, and the cast director at John Hughes' office says, hey, I got good news and bad news. I said, what's the bad news? She said, the bad news is Craig Sheffer fell out to do S.E. Hinton's movie that was Then This Is Now with Emilio Estevez. I was like, oh, shit, Craig's not going to be in the movie? She goes, no, but we got another kid that we just flew out here from New York who's going to audition with you, and he's sitting right over there. We want you to run some lines with him and come in about 5 minutes. I was like, okay. And she introduced me to Robert Downey Jr. I was in board shorts, sand on my feet, a tank top, and he was in a suit. And I go, hey, man, what's up? And he's like, what's up? And I was like, oh, this dude and I are going to party, right?
Yes.
Like, soon as I met him, I was like, I love this dude, right? I don't know what it is. When you connect.
Yeah.
So we went out and we started rehearsing, and he was fucking hilarious, right? And I never met anybody like him. Like, he was a really interesting cat.
Yeah.
And I knew within 5 minutes of meeting him that he should be my mentor. It was like that.
Wow.
Right? Because he had already done, 6, 7 movies.
Yes.
Tough Turf. I kind of...
You knew who he was.
I didn't know who he was, but I knew that he had worked.
Yeah.
I seen him around.
Yeah.
And, you know
so
what I mean?
You've seen him around.
He looks... I've seen him someplace, but now that I meet him, I'm like, oh, man, this guy's a trip.
Yeah.
So we went in, and just to finish this story, this part, we did the same thing that Craig and we went in, we started reading, and about halfway through, John's, in tears, laughing, and he goes, you're hired, you're Ian. And I remember Robert was like, so, right, or whatever, thought I wasn't or something. I was like, oh, the confidence in this guy, right?
Right.
So we walk out side, and I go, congratulations, man. He's like, yeah. And I was like, you smoke weed? He's like, yeah. I'm like, let's go smoke a joint, bro. He's like, I got a hotel up here. They put me up here at the Sheraton. We'll bust out a little champagne. We'll celebrate.
Wow.
And we went up there, and Sarah Jessica Parker was his girlfriend. She's up there, and he's like, I got the job. And she's like, of course you did, right? And like, we smoked a big old fat joint and been friends ever since.
You know what's amazing? I was going to say, right? And you were in the middle of it, talking about the Taft-Hartley stuff, right?
Mm.
So Dylan's got his roommate is this great kid, Kelson. He's a great actor, right? And I always he's trying to get his SAG card. And I've been trying to guide him. And I wanted him here. I said, dude, you got to come here and sit in. Because I invite these young actors sometimes to come in and sit on. Because they can get so much out of what you said. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times you get into, well, what's the project? You know what I mean? Even when you're young, you haven't done shit. You don't want to do anything. But if you just fucking show up and participate, like you said, and be prepared, you don't know what's going to come out.
That's right.
You know, I remember getting my SAG card. I didn't want to go do, I don't want to be a fucking extra, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this dude told me, just fucking show up. I go, I don't want to show up. I showed up. Like it was on Hot Shots Part 2, right? With Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
And I got a line.
Uh-huh.
I would just happen to be there, right? And it was just a waiter line. Can I get you another champagne or something?
Yeah, but
like
there's no such thing as just a line.
That's right.
That's right. There's no small
But in
parts.
my mind,
right.
I was like thinking like, oh, but then when they said that, I was like, but it's so funny was I was judging that just the line. Dude, I couldn't even deliver the line.
I was going to say, now you got to do it.
Yeah, and I was so...
I always tell actors, don't be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Like if you wish for something, select it, project it, collect it, protect it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a lot of what you're saying. This whole conversation really is even you getting that Taft-Hartley and getting all these other things. It's like you're staying out of the results still. You're not into the results.
That's our job.
Yes.
Yeah. Our job is staying out of the results and staying in the execution. And, I tell the actors, so I do a workshop called the Hollywood Playground in Santa Monica.
Right. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I never set out to be an acting coach. I just wanted
You're an actor. You did all kinds of shit.
I wanted to practice directing actors.
Right.
I want to direct movies. And I know about, cameras and lenses and blocking. And I know I've learned over the 42 years of my career the technical aspect of acting. But I really, as a director, wanted to really practice pulling performances out of different actors' personalities. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Not to just give a result, but to give a motive, an intention, an inclination, etc. What we're talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of our craft as an actor, I always implore actors to come in with choices, and then when directors give you direction, to be able to be pliable and utilize the direction, right? So anyway, I wanted to start practicing directing, and it turned out to be a little blessing in disguise because it's fun. I really love it. I've helped a lot of other actors, and I've also been able to stay in the craft myself, and it's just a win-win.
You're giving away something that you've gotten this. It is a blessing. What you said. You've had this incredible career, a life. Like I said, I was so excited to get you here because I fucking love the 80s. And while I was running around trying to fucking figure it out, guys like you were doing it. And I remember watching, seeing you in films, and I'd go, fuck, what's that like? I wanted to know what was that like, you know what I mean? And now you get to give that away.
Yeah, and how I really, and for you guys listening, if anybody's really, has a dream or an aspiration to be an actor, I'm going to break it down for you real quick, which is the action of it is a whole separate thing. But what I really instill in actors is the fundamental of how you approach, right? Mm-hmm. You get material, you read it, and you digest it. Comprehension, almost like school, right? School, they'd say, we want you to read these paragraphs, and then write down what you take from it, right? Comprehensive. So read, digest, or comprehend. Ask questions. Questions are way more important than answers. Who, what, when, where, why, how. What's the conflict? What is it that I want? What am I doing here? How can I contribute? How can I tell the story? How can I share my life and my experience and marry it up with the facts based on the text? Who, what, when, where. Put them together and build a backstory and approach it in that way. Then I want to remember my lines, so that's a separate thing for me. Is I work on.
How do you do that, by the way? I'm curious. How do you memorize your lines?
Well, a lot of people have a lot of different ways. A lot of actors have different. Well, some actors like to record themselves and listen. Some actors like to write it out. And I do repetition. That always works best for me. Repetition, where I just start a line at a time, and I
build, keep adding.
Keep adding. Then also listening is a key, because when I get to start running lines with another person, if I'm really listening, the lines come more organically than me remembering my line, your line, my line. And then I'm not thinking about lines, because that's a preoccupied thing that takes you out of the moment. So I sort of, that repetition really works for me. And then I put it together. I put it together with a blueprint for the scene. Every scene has a beginning, middle, and an end. Every movie, every story has a beginning, middle, and an end. So I find the arc and the beats and all that stuff in my mind's eye. I utilize my imagination, and I work with the other actor and I listen, and then I execute, which what we're talking about. So Anthony Hopkins has been at my class a few times as a guest, as well as many other great guests I've had over. I've never
been on as a guest.
You will. And he talked adamantly about connectivity and execution as actors. We connect with the emotions, whether it's a comedy or a horror or a drama or an action. You connect with the emotions, and then the execution is to stay true in each experience of the moment, but also to remember, as an actor, I have a mark to hit, and lines to remember, and lights to be cognizant of, and listening, and also putting together the technical parts, which I kind of alluded to earlier. You know, I've learned over the years about continuity and matching and blocking and rehearsing, and there's a lot of technical aspects that you learn when you're on the job. And then to be able to connect with it and put it together is the art, right? So acting is the art of not acting, right? Each moment is the last moment before the next moment, and all that stuff that we learn. So staying in the moment, but also really being a pro, and knowing how to conduct myself throughout the day.
Okay, so now that you've got these tools,
yes,
you've got all the tools. I'm going back now, because now you got the tools. You fucking land Weird Science, right? It's a fucking huge hit, right? What happens now? I mean, because now how old are you? 21?
No. I turned 19 in rehearsals for Weird Science.
Okay, so you're 19. The movie comes out. Are you 20?
When it came out,
yeah,
I was. I think. Let's see. It came out in '85. I was 20.
So it's a fucking huge hit, right? It's a mega hit in the 80s. It was, right?
Absolutely.
Fucking. So you're this young, good-looking actor in this fucking big blockbuster hit movie, 80s movie. What's that feel like? And how do you handle that?
I mean,
how do you handle that?
I was just having fun, man. Honestly,
were you aware?
There
of how
wasn't
big
really
it was?
anything. I didn't see it that way, Nick. Like, to be honest with you, it wasn't really about handling it. It was about enjoying it.
But that's what I mean. But
that's how I handled it, though.
Yeah,
I was just enjoying myself.
So you didn't even like, because that's what I'm saying. When you're young, like I look back on that. So I look back at, I turned left instead of going right,
Yeah.
And I seen guys like you getting this, and you can't help but wonder, like, what would have happened to me, or what would that have, you know what I mean? Had I always think if I would have attained that type of success at early on, and and you're obviously you get paid well, right? I would have fucking died. Do you know what I'm saying? I would have fucking died.
Well,
for
I
sure.
almost did a few times, so.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So how does that, so now your career, you fucking land this. Does your fucking ego get big? Or do you have the confidence? You go, fuck, what's next? Like, what's your next project?
I mean, I think there's a difference between being confident and cocky anyway.
Yeah.
So I never really, it's just not me. I don't take credit. It's not in my DNA to be cocky anyway.
Not even when you were young?
I was confident, very confident. I was confident in myself. I was confident in my abilities. I was confident in my spirit and my intelligence.
So then you go with this confidence.
And physically, I was physically confident.
Like big muscles and stuff.
Well, just when you can try anything and kind of do it.
Yeah.
There's a confidence that comes from martial arts, that comes from surfing, that comes from skateboarding, that comes from fighting, that comes from a lot of things.
So what I'm saying, which is great, is so now you're coming out of this. I'm trying to get an idea of where you were. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now you're coming out of Weird Science. You go into what?
Last day of shooting Weird Science, got an audition for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Wow.
Downey gives me a ride to the audition.
Wow.
And the last thing he says is, don't let anything get between you and your work, and he peeled down.
And so you go in and for the audition for Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
And the same thing happened in that audition. Halfway through, they said, you're hired. And I was like, this shit's easy.
This is easy.
This shit's easy, man.
Being a movie star is fucking easy.
This shit's easy.
Right?
Little did I know.
So you go into Nightmare on Elm Street. You fucking nail this. Then from that, what happens? What movie's next?
Right after that, I did Thrashing.
Thrashing.
Yeah.
Which you were the co-star there.
I
right?
did some movie, TV movie, Bobby Roth directed called Single Bars, Single Men.
Oh yeah.
Which was from Single Bars, Single Women, and then they renamed it Tonight's the Night. So that was a TV movie that I did in between Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Thrashing. So that's why I was saying earlier, Thrashing was like and I did a episode of Facts of Life, which was...
Dude, so you're like fucking working. You're full-time working actor.
Working.
And also now, you're a name. You have a name. You've developed a name in Hollywood, right?
Was starting
fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I knew who you were.
Yeah, when I got Vamp, I didn't have to audition. That was an offer.
See, that's something.
Yeah.
You just got an offer.
Yeah.
What do you think you have to get to? At what place do you have to get to where somebody just says, give this guy an offer?
I just think that
They've seen you in enough stuff?
The director, Richard Wank, who's now a fabulous writer, he saw me in Nightmare 2 and wanted me to be AJ in Vamp. So I didn't have to actually audition. I just went in and I met him. We talked about the role, and then I got it.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's amazing. What year was that?
That was still 86, I believe. 86. So between 84 and 86, I had landed like 4 or 5 movies.
And you got money in your pocket.
Got money in my pocket.
Right? How much? How much money?
Hanging out with Downey. So while I'm making
two little stars,
while I'm
around.
making hundreds of thousands, he's already making millions, and we were living mi vida loca. We were traveling. We were having a good time.
He's got millions, and you've got hundreds of thousands at 20.
And that's like great. you got the world by the balls.
It's the 80s.
Yeah, and
things are popping off,
dude. I can't even. If I really started to talk to you and tell everybody watching what it was like, it almost sounds like bragging. But
Just
fuck
go
it,
for it.
dude.
Fucking
We
brag. Who
fucking
cares?
were raging.
Right.
And I was having a blast. And then after doing Thrashing, I made so many friends on Thrashing. All those skaters, Christian Asoy and Steve Olson and all these guys, we started hanging. Tony Alva, we were going out to the nightclubs, and we were, skating pools, and we were surfing fat waves.
And you got money.
got money in my pocket. I'm getting laid. Like, dude, like, come on, bro.
How was Thrashing received? Like, I mean, it wasn't like obviously Weird Science and shit like that.
No, it wasn't a big hit, but it was
it's
one of
huge
those
cult
movies
following.
like Vamp that started to it kept gaining momentum over the years.
Right.
And, now they're known as cult classics.
Yeah, it's a super cult classic. You know what I mean? You know what's funny? I never saw the movie. I never saw the movie back then. You know why? Because I was too old and too fucked up already. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to the movies.
Right.
I wasn't going to the movies.
Yeah.
I was partying. I was going to clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I knew of the movie.
And let me just interject, man. The clubs in the 80s were so off the hook.
Don't we talk? Don't
Bro.
we hear this all the time?
Power Tool and funky reggae.
Funky reggae.
Oh,
You look at the names.
God, lingo. I mean, magic time.
I had John Philbin on here.
Oh, I love John Philbin.
Right?
Oh,
He was
yeah.
a guy like you,
Yeah.
making it in the 80s.
He was jamming, dude.
He was jamming.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. We talked about the clubs in the 80s,
God, it was
right?
so much fun. And when I was traveling as well, so not only was I doing the club scene here in Hollywood, but I was going to New York, and I was, going to the clubs in London, and
Yeah.
it was a really fast time.
And I want to kind of keep getting, because I want to get to another place, because the guys just showed me how much time we got going. But
I could do this all day.
I know. He's got interviews and stuff. So listen to this.
Whatever, bro.
So you get out of, but when I want to go back to it, so you got all this money, fucking, it's the 80s, it's fucking popping off, you're fucking becoming a star, you and Downey Jr., thrashing, then what comes after? What's your next job?
Thrashing, then Vamp,
Vamp, then what?
then Shag.
Shag.
Yeah, did that. I love Shag because I got this job. I read for the role of Buzz in Shag, and I got the part, and we were going to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for 3 months to shoot this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was going to Podunkville. Like I really thought, man, like what am I gonna do besides make the movie? But 3 months is a long time to be on location in some place that I thought was going to be.
So it's like a job. If you're thinking that way, it's like a job to you now. There's something changed, because if you're thinking that way, now it's just a job.
Well, there's a lot of
It's a
off
good job.
time as well. When you're shooting 3 months, first of all, it's very rare to shoot any movies anymore for 3 months.
Right.
Some of these big like Marvel movies and stuff. Yes, it's a huge ordeal, and there's a lot of work, and it takes a long time. But movies, like Shag, now you'll shoot in 28 days,
Right.
Because of the technology and how everything has changed. But back then, going for a whole summer. And leaving California in the summer, are you kidding?
Right.
Like, dude, it was popping, like we were saying.
Yeah.
And I thought, like I said, those were my words to my mom. I was like, I'm going to Podunkville. And she's like, just go focus on the work and make the best of it. And I get to Myrtle Beach, though, brother. And they got me at the Four Seasons in this beautiful hotel overlooking the ocean with the pool.
Yeah.
And it was popping.
Right.
I had no idea. The very first night I went out to this place called the After Deck with the band, the Voltage Brothers, that were in the movie. And I met one of the hottest girls I've ever met in my life. And I said, hey, she goes, excuse me, were you in Weird Science? And I was like, why, yes, I was, right?
Yeah.
And I was like,
wow,
floored how beautiful she was.
Southern somebody, and you're somebody.
Oh, she was gorgeous, bro.
But you are. You know what I'm saying? You're somebody.
And she was somebody.
And she.
And I'm somebody.
Yeah. Okay.
I could have been a bum. So, anyways, the funny story is, I meet the cast: Phoebe Cates, Bridget Fonda, Annabeth Gish, right?
Yeah.
And they go, "We heard about you. You're a bad boy." you and Robert Downey Jr. are bad boys. You better watch out in this movie. And I was like, relax. We're going to have a good time, right? So the next day, they put a little call sheet under my door that night and said, we're going to have a table read around the pool tomorrow at noon. And everybody show up, and it's like a meet and greet, and we're going to do a table read, and DP and the producers and the director, and everybody from Hemdale, the production company, everybody's going to be there. And they had this nice spread, and everybody was meeting and saying hello. And about a quarter of the way in the first act of the movie, I kind of had forgotten that I made the date with the girl from the night before.
Yeah.
And the director, Zelda Barron, who was awesome, she had been a part of all the Monty Python movies. It was an all British crew.
Right.
And she worked with Warren Beatty, and she was a legend. And the DP actually was the camera operator on Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, wow.
So I was like,
wow.
There was one surprise after the next on this movie that I'm not in Podunkville, and this is a dope little film, and I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great. And we were in the middle of the table read, and Zelda, the director, goes, my God, look at this girl. And everybody turned and looked. And it was the girl from the night before. And she had a white bikini, high heels, like a breakfast at Tiffany's hat, and a see-through sort of robe with the bikini underneath.
Yeah.
And she was carrying these magazines in this little basket. And she was like, Robert. And everybody just looked over at me, and Phoebe Cates goes, you've only been here one day. And the director goes, oh, I cast the right guy for this role, right?
Totally.
And I go, can you guys just excuse me for a second? I'll be right back. And I went over to her, and I was like, hey, we're just finishing up. Sit by the pool, order some drinks and some lunch, and I'll be right with you, And it was just the start of the next 3 months were some of the most epic months of my life in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, shooting this movie. So sometimes, what I sort of perceive something to be, I'm totally off.
Right.
And I just had a blast, and I just love that movie now too as well. It's one of those movies that also picked up momentum over the years.
I got to rewatch that again. That's a good one.
Yeah, Bridget Fonda's first movie, she was brilliant in the movie.
What happened? So now your career, you've got all these things under your belt. You and I talked about it's a fucking 80s and things are popping off. Just things I am curious, how does a guy like you continue on with the career and have that sort of, because I couldn't handle the fucking nightlife and even a regular job as a valet parker. You're making fucking movies. I'm parking cars at the beach and I'm getting fired on a weekly basis. Do you know what I mean? Because my partying is getting in the way. Do you stop, or you know what I mean? Does
I hit some walls in my life, and if I'm going to get transparent for a second, yeah, man, you get caught. I got caught up in the partying and the house parties and the clubs and the traveling and sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
And you're young.
And I'm young, and I had some bouts.
Yeah.
And I had to do something about it. And I would have these brief, and sometimes not so brief, times of pulling back, and then even checking out recovery, and realizing that the people around me that loved me were concerned. And if there were any inconveniences along the way, it was still worth it, because if I'm being really, really honest, I feel like drugs and alcohol saved my life for years.
How so?
Well, I had trauma and dysfunction when I was a kid.
Right.
And I never set out to go A, B, and C happened to me, so I drink. It was a natural progression that it was a coping mechanism. It was a defense mechanism. It was a skill that I had developed to party with my friends and move forward. And I often said I used to like the cartoon Sinbad when I was a boy, and he used to pull his belt, and he would give him strength like Popeye ate spinach.
Yes.
And I would literally, at times in my life, when I was feeling conflict or trouble, I would pull my belt and I would move forward. And when the consequences become dire and I'm not managing my life and, I'm losing jobs, relationships, when I started to
So that's
isolate.
Happening. So that's starting to
happened.
happen.
That happened for me.
So let me ask you this then, not to cut you off, but like, since you talk about the pulling the belt, and now you're working, right? And you're a young guy with all this money. Is there a time, can you remember like where you go, fuck, I crossed the line? Do you remember when that was?
No, it was a gray line. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know when it happened
so it
for me.
slowly crept up and it was too late.
Well, I don't know when it happened. When something that I reveled in and something that I prided myself in became something that was a setback or humiliating or embarrassing or something that I had to be ashamed of. I don't know when that happened. And that was a tough pill to swallow. Excuse the pun. It was a tough reality to admit to self. Forget admitting to others. That's easy. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I'm having a problem. But to admit to self and go, I have to do something different or I'm not going to make it. And, I feel emotional speaking about it because I didn't realize how I affected everybody around me with my actions. And the audacity in those times is, you don't know what it's like to walk a mile in my shoes. Don't judge me.
Right.
I'm not hurting you. I'm hurting myself. And then when it sets in that that's not the truth, that I am hurting others that love me, that had nothing to do with any of the stuff that went on when I was a kid, trauma, humiliation, betrayal, bullshit, right? Am I going to perpetuate that shit my whole life and live as a victim? Or am I going to step up to the plate and be accountable and do something about it? Forget what I think and how I feel about it. What am I going to do about it? Right? So that was a hard decision to make.
What age was that?
It was in the 90s.
Do you remember about how old you were when you go?
No, because it happened a lot of times, to be honest with you. Remember, I would say I would like get clean for a while, things would get good. And then I got into this little revolving door, which is I get clean, I get a girlfriend, I get a job, and I get loaded.
Wow.
And it would always be fun in the beginning.
Right.
And then it would eventually...
But it would always end on the last thing.
It would peter out.
Getting loaded.
Peter out, and then I would wind up feeling alone. In a room full of people, I could be alone, right? But I like to be by myself, so... Right? Juxta. So, as much as I loved, partying and drugs and alcohol, I also, didn't like the hangovers or the come downs or the reality of dealing with aftermath.
See, because to me, that's what's so fascinating about you and friends like you, to me, like I always say, because, we were lucky we get to live like, as the saying goes, we get two lives in one, right? And you fucking survived this incredible fucking ride.
As I've witnessed many not survive.
Exactly.
So many good people that we've lost in this earth,
Yeah.
And some of the first, like when I did the Outsiders series, it was Francis Ford Coppola produced a short run on Fox of the Outsiders.
That's right.
We did one season. We were actually set to do more, but politically it didn't work. Money and politics. And what they wound up doing is they got a look-alike for me and Rodney Harvey. And they did Beverly Hills 90210 instead, which was a huge, huge success.
Right.
But Rodney Harvey didn't make it. Rodney Harvey was a good friend of mine, and he overdosed and died.
Oh, wow. Do you know what it was? What he overdosed on?
Heroin.
Wow.
heroin and cocaine. He was speedballing.
Wow.
And
Right.
I was devastated when Rodney died. And then shortly after that, one of the other actors on the movie, Harold Pruitt, died, who also OD'd. And the reality of watching friends of mine not make it. And there's been a long list that everybody's, hip on, like all the River Phoenix, all these guys that didn't make it. And so to be put in a nutshell, we don't have much time, but I had to do something about it. And I did. And I did something about it, and I sought outside help. And I got some clarity on the things that I needed to let go of and get an intervention on. And what I mean by an intervention is a spiritual intervention. And then there was the learning and the wisdom to start realizing what I could change and what I couldn't change in my life. I can't change people, places, and things. I can't change the past. I can't change the mistakes that I made, and I can't change the things that were done to me that fucking haunted me. But what I can change is I could light a little fire under my ass and get some discipline and do something about it, take some accountability, and get clean, man. And so I got clean. And then what I didn't realize for a long time is that there was a big difference between just being clean and actually getting a soundness of mind, body, and spirit.
And what's that look like?
It looks like freedom, baby.
Yeah.
It looks like
Like you talk to the
when you go a mile
spirituality.
when you go a mile into the jungle, man, it's a mile out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do some personal work, and I had to get with others like me, right? Other fools like me that understood how we operate.
Yeah.
Because without getting on some kind of a pedestal about it, or a soapbox, should I say, I'm bodily and mentally different from a lot of other people, and I just have to accept that. I never set out to have a beer.
Right.
I didn't drink that way.
No.
I didn't party that way. I didn't
drink for the effect.
I didn't do drugs. Like, I didn't do a little bump to go out. Like, I went large. And it's go hard or go home, right? And that's how I grew up, and that's how everybody that I really kind of emulated and adored, from heroes on the silver screen to the rock stars to the guys in the neighborhood to some of the other people that I worked with. That's how we did it.
So what's your life like today?
My life today?
Yeah, what's it like today?
It's so good.
Tell me about it.
Oh man, I'm so blessed, man. Well, what I used to shirk most.
How do you stay in that place?
What I
of
used to
being blessed?
shirk most, Nick, was love and responsibilities.
Mm.
It's what I wanted, and it's what I pushed away. Yeah? And now I have love and responsibilities, and I covet the love and responsibilities in my life today. That's the difference. And the things that used to drive my actions in a negative way no longer drive my actions that way. It's pretty simple. Going into recovery, we learn that it's not easy, which is what gives it value, but it's simple. And sometimes simplest is the hardest to achieve. Just like acting, right? Simplicity, effortlessness, execution, not results. What am I going to do about it? So consistently doing something about it at first feels horrible. That's my experience. I remember I used to get high and I felt good, but there were times when I wasn't doing so good. Then I got clean and I didn't feel so good, but I was doing great.
Right.
So I had to get through that crucial period between abstinence and some kind of a spiritual awakening.
So how does your day, like how do you stay in this place of gratitude where you appreciate what you talked about, everything that you covet, the love, family, and all that stuff? How do you stay in that? How do you stay in that mindset? So the brain, the mind doesn't talk you into fucking saying, hey, I'm going to go fucking this way.
Well, I have a routine.
Yeah, what's the routine?
Well, I pray and I meditate.
Okay.
And I have positive affirmations, and I put out instead of try to get.
So you're of service.
Yeah, I love my wife. I love my kids. I provide for them. I'm available to my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's the same thing with work. It's all the same because it's all fundamentals of the human spirit, right? What can I give? What can I bring to the table?
Yes.
What can I contribute? On a job, that was really what I learned early. It's when I think about what I'm getting or not getting, it's not an authentic approach, right?
Yeah.
But when I think about and when I utilize my spirit to go, what can I bring to the table? How can I tell this story better? What can I bring of myself that gives depth and meaning and weight to this character? It's the same thing as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a son, as an actor, whatever it is. When I just approach it that way, and I don't have to be a saint to do it.
Dude, I love that.
I don't have to be a saint. I just got to be honest.
It's like, what are you bringing to life?
What am I bringing to this interview?
Yeah.
Am I here to promote some shit that I got coming out? Which reminds me, my next movie is. Or am I here to share with the people that listen to your podcast and try to give a little bit of myself and be a flawed human who wants what everybody else wants, which is I want to be happy, I want to have joy in my life, and I want to be free. And I have those things today. And I see it as a gift, not something that I earned.
Yeah.
I did the footwork, but somebody said that to me. They said, hey, when you think you earned your place, just remember all those people that love you are the ones that earn it with you. And so, when I have successes, I remember to have gratitude and let everybody else be proud of me, right?
Yeah.
It's just an approach, right? And so when you say, what's my life look like today? My life's simple. And I have all these opportunities. I got movies coming out. I got a movie to do next month.
Can you say what movie's coming out while we have a few minutes?
Yeah. And in fact, one of the proudest moments of my career is I just did a movie with my youngest son, Johnny.
That's right.
Yeah, it's called Razor Boy. Yeah. So Ash Adams, who's a terrific actor.
Yeah.
So Ash directed this film. He wrote and directed this film called Razor Boy. And there was a part in the initial script for possibly a high school kid to be buddies with one of the leads. Well, the short of it is, after Ash met my son Johnny Ray, he gave the role to Johnny. And Johnny and I got to be in this movie together.
Dude,
and then Ash let me direct the scenes with Johnny, which was a privilege and an honor.
See, let me tell you something. Just to have that experience, talk about the gifts. That's a gift.
So he's been coming to class and he's been putting in the work. He's been studying and he's been putting up scenes.
But you're in a dude. You get to be in a scene with your son.
It's awesome.
Your son's doing.
I have a hair here.
What's that?
You see there's a hair.
You got lots of hair.
Is it in my nose or is it just like a hair?
I can't see anyway. I don't have my glasses. But anyway.
Will you get it for me?
When we cut, I will.
Thank you. With your teeth.
But anyway, dude, we're out of time. That was fucking so great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that insight and taking me back to the fucking 80s, which I love. Letting me ride the dream.
I think we should do a part 2.
Oh yeah, we're gonna definitely do it.
There's so much more to talk about.
Oh, I know. Anyway, another savory conversation on Unsavory Felt. My good buddy Robert Rusler. I love you, buddy.
Love you too.
Hello.